Welcome everybody. Today we are going to make a bank account program. So what it's going to do is it is going to create new users, it's going to withdraw money, deposit money, simple stuff like that. And while we build this program, we are going to be talking about a few things that have to do with building programs across multiple files, as well as dip our toes into object-oriented programming. So a lot of exciting stuff. And just in this video, we will only talk about building programs across multiple files. In the next ones, we'll get into object-oriented programming. So yeah, in your programming career, you're going to stop making these tiny little one-off programs, and you're going to be working with libraries that stretch hundreds, if not thousands, of files. So you are going to need to learn how to connect your files together, how to get them to speak to each other. And what I'm going to just very quickly show you is what you're used to, and we're going to translate it to a structure that is more professional, more what you would see in the real world. So here I've just made a function called SumFunction that all it does is it just says print something to the user. Nothing too interesting about that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to organize it in the proper way. So how it's going to work out is this main CPP file. You see here we have these three files. The main CPP file is going to be where we do all our back and forth with the user like we have been doing. The bank account.cpp file is going to be where we define all of our functions, and then the bank account.hpp file, this is new, this is what's called a header file. And a header file, you can think of it as like an index in the back of a book. All it is it just lists the forward declarations of all the functions or all of the classes that you use across your program. So let's go ahead and get started with that. An HPP file, again, this is just what's called a header file. It is always going to start with what is called a header guard. And this is just letting C++ know that it's a header file, or that what's within it is a header definition. And how you make a header guard is just pretty simple. You just type if in def. What that means is if not defined, and then we need to give it a name, so we'll just say bank account HPP. And traditionally this is in all caps, so you say if not defined bank account HPP. We write define bank account HPP. So anything in between define and endif is going to be our header definition for bank account.hpp. And the code blocks, when I hit enter on right here, it just automatically put in the endif. Just know that every header file needs to end with endif. So that is just the setup. These are the header guards for a header in C++. So not to overcomplicate things, let's just put in our forward declaration. So we're just going to cut and paste this into this file here. And then that's all the header file usually is. It's just a bunch of these forward declarations, and usually someone will just write a note next to it that says what it does. So this one just does some things. And so that's a header file. And so back to our main file, we have our definition. We've defined that sum function. We're going to move this one to our bankaccount.cpp file. And so this file is just going to be, just an entire page dedicated to defining all the functions that we list in this file. And so as is, the bankaccount.cpp file doesn't know that it's attached to the bankaccount.hpp file. We need to tell it to look at this file here. And so to do that, we'll use our include directive. And when we're including a file, it's a little bit different than we're including a library. So these up here, This is including a library, these ones inside of the less than and greater than brackets. When we're including another file, we just put it inside quotes. So we'll just say include bank account.hpp. And so what this does is it just points to this header file. Okay. And then finally, back to our main function, we need to also point this to our other files. Now you're probably thinking that we just need to hit include bank account HPP again, but this would actually be a mistake. So within the same folder, only one CPP file can point towards an HPP file. So if we were to do this both, if both main and bank account were to point to HPP, then what this would do is it would load, in our final program, it would load two HPP files, and then basically we would have an issue with this whole if not defined, because we're defining it once in here. So we're including this and we're defining it once, and then if we include it again, then it's already defined and we're going to have an issue with that with the header cards. So instead of including bank account.hpp, we include the CPP file. So kind of how the structure works is main is pointing to bank account.cpp and bank account.cpp is pointing towards the header file. So you can see one more time there, and then there's our forward declaration. And I know this might seem like overkill, and it is for just this small program, but this is what you're going to see when you get into a more professional development environment. Again, this is just much more organized once you get into much larger programs. So as is, let's go ahead and just let's go ahead and set up our program. Let's save it, build it, and run it, and just make sure it prints something. There it went. It printed something exactly as we wanted. So good job. If you got this far, great. Again, in our next videos, we're going to get into object-oriented programming, and that is where the real fun begins with C++. Awesome. See you there. For deeper learning on C++, visit us at makethingswithcpp.com and be sure to like and subscribe.